We know that there's really enhanced awareness these days of the dangers that wildfires present in Hawaii. Last year, the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency ranked wildfires as the #1 hazard, that our state faces. Something like a hurricane is a possibility, but if you look at history and the statistics, wildfires are almost a certainty to happen every year. So, having more procedures, more technology, and better improvements in place to deal with the hazards of wildfires is something that's really important to keep our community and our customers safe. This program, Public Safety Power Shutoff, is something that's been done in other states very successfully for a number of years now. And, we looked at it and we decided that this was the right time to implement something like this here in Hawaii. And, fortunately, we haven't had to do it yet, but there's been a lot of planning and a lot of extensive coordination with the community and all sectors of government to really, try and get us to the point where we're ready to do it if we need to.
Let's go through some of these maps of some of the islands to really see specifically the targeted areas. And if you can talk through them to really explain how they were determined for some of these areas. We'll start off here with Oahu County.
Sure. So, if a public safety power shutoff gets declared, that means that there are really hazardous conditions, where the risk of a wildfire is really imminent. We're talking high winds, very low humidity, drought conditions, and the presence of a lot of dry vegetation. So, and historically areas where there are a lot of wildfires. So we looked at all of those factors on each of the islands to determine, which areas are probably the most prone to having a wildfire that might, have some interaction with our power lines. So on Oahu, you can see, we work with some national consultants, and they helped us determine that, over here on the west side of the island, in the Waianae area, and also up towards Ka'eno Point, these are the areas where we determined are most likely. Those would be the areas that would have these conditions. And so in the interest of safety, we might proactively turn off the power in portions of these areas.
And here we are, we're looking at Maui County. And do we know, when I was reading the parameters in terms of what you would what would trigger this, it was a percentage of humidity and weather conditions. What else? And how much notice do folks get on this? And how long will it last? I mean, of course, it's situational dependent, but generally speaking.
What we're aiming for is giving our customers 24 to 48 hours notice, so that we're constantly monitoring the weather. Both the forecast from the National Weather Service, other weather services from the media reports, and we've been in the process of installing weather stations out on our poles and other parts of the system to give us really localized weather information from specific points in the system. So, using all of that data, what we're hoping is that if we can get, we know people need as much time as possible to prepare. So we want to give them 24 to 48 hours notice that a PSPS may be coming, to put them on alert. If and when it becomes necessary to activate a PSPS, we will try to give them as much notice as possible. However, we know that the weather can change very drastically on a dime. So there may be very little notice, or there may not be time to provide any notice ahead of time. But we will do our best. Our commitment to our customers is, we will make every effort to keep them as informed as possible and give them as much notice as possible.
And so again, when we look at, say, Maui here, and say you are in a portion of Makawao, and you get this alert, this is sort of the area that has been identified as some of these higher risk areas. But I'm assuming that also does not preclude any area that is outside of this orange zones that you've identified as well, correct?
So if a PSPS is activated, it's very likely that we're seeing really severe weather conditions, and that can affect all parts of any island. So you could have a situation where you have high winds knocking down trees in another part of an island, and they're, as you say here on, you have the Big Island map up, right? We could have really high winds, further south, knocking down some power lines or knocking down some poles, causing an outage there. And as a precaution, we might deactivate the power up in the colored areas of the map here that you see, up towards Javi and other parts of the northern part of the island. So it's really hard to speculate, about a lot of hypothetical situations, but our commitment is to give our customers as much advance notice as possible.
What struck me about looking at these maps is that these are large areas. So we're talking not only about, individual customers, we're also talking about businesses. I believe it's like the entire town of Waimea on Hawaii Island is in one of those zones right there you see. So when you look at that, if you're a business owner in that area, what do you suggest that they do to prepare for this? I know 24 to 48 hours, but if you've got a fridge full of produce and food, what has been the recommendation?
Well, generally speaking, we advise our customers to prepare for a broad range of emergencies, and if you're prepared for a hurricane, you're prepared for PSPS. That the same kind of preparations you would go through, whether just in your household, that as a residential customer, or as a business, those same type of preparations you would make, whether it's having emergency food supply at home or securing your inventory and making sure, all of your important documentation is secure or something, at work, having an emergency plan for your employees, you would do that for a hurricane, and that's a practice that's been in place in Hawaii for since before I was born, right? We know that, getting ready for hurricane season is part of our way of life here. Historically, the highest, you see wildfires during the summer months and the later part of the year. So that sort of falls within the time frame of hurricane season. So what we advise our customers is, don't just plan for one emergency, be prepared for all the different possibilities, that could happen here in Hawaii, because the same set of preparations will get you generally ready for those things.
And